case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
It is indeed that time again. A little late, but still plenty of time to get to some juicy Top 5 at 5 material. Where would you like to start?
I think we have to begin at Target Center. Are you a great mood ring mind?
I don't think I ever was.
Right.
And so mood ring, so it was all, that's all color related, correct?
Yes.
And do we know how it is color coded? Because I don't know. I mean, my assumption is a blue mood would be you're down, you're sullen, you're withdrawn, not particularly good. But I honestly don't know what colors correspond with bad moods or good moods. All I know is we apparently, for at least one night, were not, collectively speaking, in a bad mood.
It's interesting that you would assume blue is bad, where this mood ring reader indicates
blue
that
is good.
Blue is relaxed, at ease, calm, lovable. Black is tense, nervous, harassed, overworked. Gray, anxious, nervous, strained. Amber, nervous, mixed emotions, unsettled. Green, average reading active, not under stress. Blue-green, inner emotions charged, somewhat relaxed. I mentioned blue, and then there's violet. Very happy, love, passion, and romance.
So what's the bad mood color?
Black is tense, nervous, harassed, overworked.
Okay.
So that might have been Nas Reed last night.
Yeah, individually. Fortunately for us, it didn't matter for the rest of the team.
Everybody else, I'd say blue or violet, wouldn't you?
You'd have to go with that.
Very happy, love, passion, romance, relaxed, at ease, calm, and lovable. And when you run away and score 81 points in the first half like the Wolves did last night and hang on for a 138-116 victory, I think it got to 16 in the second half after it was 31 in the first half, the lead I'm talking about. The Wolves put the Hawks to bed. Yeah, all 5 starters were in double figures. Randall had a triple-double. McDaniels, 18 points. Gobert didn't miss a shot from the floor, 7-7, had a bucket-load of dunks. Dante actually got to shoot the ball last night, scored 10. Anthony Edwards led everybody with 30. And the new guy, Ayo Dosunmu, 21 points in 30 minutes. So it was all good last night. Wolves are back in action tomorrow night to wrap up the pre-All-Star game portion of the season against the Trailblazers at Target Center.
I haven't been paying attention to them. Are they anywhere near 500, the Blazers?
The Portland Blazers are 2 games below 500.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
This while their head coach is embroiled in the gambling ring, right? Or the whatever that sports betting thing was, and poker games and the whole deal. So anyway, the mood ring, I don't know, maybe we bring out the mood ring every once in a while on the Timberwolves.
I think we have
just
to
see
at this
how
point.
they're
It's
doing.
become such a big, prevalent part of the conversation. I think we would be remiss if we didn't.
We want to get to some Olympic stuff?
Yeah, why not?
Let me pull up the talking points page because that's where we have this. I think I'm going to start playing this every morning in my house.
Get everybody going?
Up.
Yeah. A little extra bounce in their step.
Exactly right. Let's attack the day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Not a bad gig if you can get it.
Minnesota, all we do is win. We are so represented in the Winter Olympics once again. Alpine skier Paula Moltson of Prior Lake, got her first Olympic medal. She took the bronze along with Jackie Wiles.
It's a team bronze, right? Or a dual?
Yes.
Dual bronze,
in the women's team combined. We mentioned the curling team yesterday getting to the championship. They lose to Sweden in the gold medal round, but our silver medalists, Jessie Diggins, who's got broken ribs, one of the great cross-country skiers of all time, our very own Jessie Diggins, finished without a medal in the women's sprint. She's battling through some ribs, and then Team USA with a boatload of Minnesotans completely dominated Canada 5-0 in their final women's hockey group game. I texted Mr. Taylor Heisey, Parker Fox, today and asked him how many Coronas he was into at the game today. He said about 10. Said he's having a great time.
Man.
It's good being Parker Fox.
I might as well enjoy it.
Yeah, smoke them if you got them. Anything else you wanted to recap?
Yeah,
I went all Minnesotans.
I'll widen it out a little bit because the name is pretty well known. Probably beyond our gal who grew up on, was it Buck Hill?
Lindsey Vonn, yes.
Vonn?
Yep.
Is it fair to say Michaela Schifrin is the other best known skier?
That is fair to say.
Let me just read you the Rachel Bachman lead Wall Street Journal from earlier today. For 3 years and 11 months out of every 4 years, Michaela Schifrin is by far the best alpine skier in the world. The American star routinely dominates almost every elite slalom she enters, often by a huge margin. No man or woman in history has won more World Cup races. But then she gets to the Olympics. On Tuesday, that's today, Schifrin was racing with a gold medal on the line in the team combined event and proceeded to turn in one of the slowest slaloms of the day and her entire career. Quote, I didn't quite find a comfort level that allowed me to produce at full speed. Her catastrophically timed and shockingly slow run in the event she usually owns dropped her two-woman U.S. team from first down to fourth. Obviously, that means straight off the podium. It also extended a nightmarish stretch of Olympic finishes in Schifrin's otherwise outstanding career. It is uncanny how this goes for her. It's just, it's been one Olympic disaster after another in her case, and the rest of the year there is no more dominant racer, including in, significant Cup events. It's not like she's just winning, weekend exhibitions, but in the Olympics, the nightmare for Michaela Schifrin continues. The other one I want to mention real quick, I don't know that we need to obsess over it. Are you familiar with the Michael Phelps of the Winter Olympics?
Is that the quad god?
That's a good guess. No, this is a cross-country skier named Johan, I know I'm gonna mangle the name, Hosflot Klæbo, 29 years old, Norway. He is aiming for 6, count them, 6 Winter Olympic gold medals. He's already won 2 in the current games. Dominant. You've always been a big cross-country ski guy. I know that.
Yeah, I remember we used to do it in gym class.
Endurance necessary for that.
Nordic track.
And apparently he has got a good chance to leave with 6. What he has to be careful of, don't drop the medal. Again.
How about that?
The medals are breaking.
Yeah.
They're like breaking into pieces. Who was it who was celebrating? I think it was the woman who beat... who was the American who won the downhill that Lindsey Vonn crashed in?
I don't know.
Cannot remember her name.
Yeah.
She's jumping up and down.
Yep.
And apparently, celebrating afterwards. It's on a ribbon, the medal, but the medal came off the ribbon, fell to the ground, broke into 2 pieces.
It's crazy.
So I don't understand why we always have these medal problems. Are they not just, is it quality control? Are they too cheap, or what's the deal?
Yeah, I don't know, because I get it at like my kid's traveling basketball tournament, when you're picking them up from Al's Metal Shop on Main Street. But these are the ISOC or IOC Olympic medals. They should be beyond reproach.
Breezy Johnson, she won the gold in that race. And she's still up, celebrating, jumps up, and then, as I said, the medal separates from the ribbon holding it in place. She looks down, and it's in at least 2 pieces. And apparently, there are a number of folks complaining about that very same thing, quality control, even when it comes to the medals at the Winter Olympics.
The Fan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. The keyword for the 5 o'clock hour, money. KFAN.com, money.
Alec Lewis. What's the money line on who's going to be the veteran quarterback who challenges J.J. McCarthy? We'll see what Lewis thinks, where he thinks it's headed, and if he thinks some of the national steam has any merit regarding some names I had not previously heard. We'll get to all that and more with Alec next. Our next guest has a 10-point plan. Not 3 points, not 5 points, not 9 points, but 10 points on how to get the Minnesota Vikings back on the straight and narrow, on the path once again to making the playoffs and perhaps doing something, perish the thought, once they are in the playoffs. We're going to discuss some of the items in the 10-point plan. We'll get to some of your texts via the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line at 64686. Alec Lewis, who covers the Vikings for The Athletic, now indeed joins us. All right, I want to immediately get to your first item in your 10-point plan because it's aggressive. You write, cut Hargrave, Kelly, Jones as an Aaron, and TJ Hawkinson. Tell me what this is all about.
Yeah, so every year as part of I would call it my own internal process to have an idea of how the offseason might potentially go. I put myself through this rigorous 10-step plan that ultimately gets picked apart by every reader and potentially radio hosts throughout the Twin Cities area. And I knew off the bat that I was being very aggressive, specifically with the idea of cutting TJ Hawkinson. If you ask me, is it my expectation that the Vikings do that? I'd probably lean more towards no than yes. But for me, I mean, part of the reason I had that in there is just when you think about how much allocation this team is doing on offensive skill players, specifically at receiver and tight end, and how much money they need to clear from a cap perspective this offseason, it was one of the approaches for me that made sense. The others, specifically Javon Hargrave and Ryan Kelly, are more sensible cuts to create cap space. And then the Aaron Jones one brings up what I think is a pretty important conversation in terms of who is going to be playing running back paired with Jordan Mason for a team that's going to need to run the football in 2026, regardless of who's playing quarterback.
No, I like the aggressiveness of it because, again, it's a great device because I'm sure, I'm not saying you don't believe what you've written, but I think a lot of this is, I'm going to throw out some names that represent opportunity or action, whether you're talking about subtracting or adding, and it allows you to get into the issues that the team has at several of those positions. And there is a part of me that says the aggressiveness just with number one is exactly where it's got to go, where halfway measures, and again, there are dangers with this, all right? I mean, you do run the risk possibly of things getting worse, but I think the bigger danger to the Vikings is halfway stuff, that you might have to, go further than they may have originally intended, and to be a little bit more dramatic. Now, in this case, you're talking about finances because that matters, but I would argue across the board that there is probably going to be a need to take some risks and take some chances and be bold and aggressive rather than just sort of what kind of go halfway.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it really gets to two vastly important questions for where the Vikings are right now. And one of them is, like, for 2026, what is your specific goal? Is your goal to get back to the playoffs? Is your goal to set yourself up optimally long term? Is your goal to go all in and win the Super Bowl? Like, I think that is an important question that I imagine internally, as the meetings start to happen with 2 weeks to go until the scouting combine where all of the decision making begins to be made. Like, that is crucial. And then the other question for me is, like, what is the identity, both offensively and defensively? Offensively, if you are not going to acquire a quarterback that can shoulder the team, does it make sense for your identity to be a downfield passing game, or does it make sense to minimize risk with the passing game and lean a little more toward efficiency, both in the pass and run? And so those two questions, I think, are the most crucial and this exercise in many ways for me probably crystallized the murkiness in trying to answer those two questions with where the Vikings currently are.
Number 5 on your top 10 list is a doozy because I think the quarterback you identify there is very polarizing for a lot of people, despite the fact that he's talented and he's had some good moments. Number 5 for you is trade a third-round draft choice to the Arizona Cardinals for Kyler Murray. Now, you're going to have to convince me on this, although I understand the theory behind it, that you got again, take some risks, give yourself some options, none of which might be incredibly attractive, but then you got to hope that something pays off or you strike electricity on one or two of them. Give me your view on Kyler Murray, because he scares me. There's a lot of stuff that bothers me about him, and I'm not sure he'd be at the top of my list, even though he might be the most talented guy in terms of, over the course of his career, what he's accomplished. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he should scare you. He scared me in writing that. I mean, my editor was getting really frustrated with me the night before because I shuffled between Mac Jones and Kyler Murray and Geno Smith, and he's like, why are you caring this much about these three specific quarterbacks and going back and forth? But I was trying to do it right, as you can imagine. And Kyler, I mean, was the eventual choice for me because I think if you weigh all of the names that have surfaced within this conversation, whether it's Kirk Cousins, whether it's Geno Smith, whether it's Mac Jones, Kyler, whoever else, Derek Carr, whoever else you want to throw in this conversation, I think the most talented from just a raw talent perspective and potential upside is probably Kyler Murray. And so that's the route that I went for the exercise, but I fully understand every complication that, I mean, a lot of people listening, you probably have in terms of fit with the system, in terms of work ethic, in terms of what that would mean with J.J. McCarthy. And similar to my answer with the last, question that you asked and conversation that we had, I think the quarterback conversation and who the Vikings try to pair with J.J. McCarthy, I mean, it raises another kind of more existential question of how willing are you to give up the starter spot right now? And if you are not willing to, then it is going to be more difficult to acquire probably the type of quarterback insurance that you feel necessary.
That's exactly right.
So that's part of what makes this conversation right now so interesting.
That's the key to it, 100% right. Alec Lewis joining us from The Athletic talking Purple. I don't remember the name of the reporter. I thought I had saved the piece, but I can't find it. It was, I believe, an ESPN reporter threw out the name of Anthony Richardson. His premise was the assumption that the Vikings want to bring only a more experienced veteran in here to compete with JJ may not be true, that they might be very interested and willing to bring somebody else still pretty young and relatively unaccomplished, if a bit talented. That shocked me that KOC would even consider going down that road. Do you think there's anything to that?
Well, I do think the Vikings really like Anthony Richardson coming out in 2023. That was something that I remember hearing pre-draft. It's funny. I actually went down to Jacksonville and spent a couple days with a couple quarterback coaches and actually spent time with Anthony Richardson. And it was, I mean, just watching him out in the field, it was one of the most athletic and impressive athletes I've ever seen in person. But to the point that you've made already, I mean, he has had a ton of trouble early in his career staying healthy and being accurate. And those might sound familiar to what the listeners and you and I have watched over the last 2 years with J.J. McCarthy. It would be, what I would say about Anthony Richardson is acquiring him would probably definitely be possible, given Indianapolis' commitment to Daniel Jones, most likely, and Riley Leonard, who has come on for them as a backup. So it would be possible, but it would be the ultimate dice roll if that's who you were pairing J.J. McCarthy with, another unproven guy who has not been able to stay healthy. And if you being Kevin O'Connell and you being the Vikings front office, if you feel comfortable enough with your security over the long haul beyond this season and into future years, maybe that's a move that you are okay making. I'm not sure if it's the one that I would feel on most stable ground making.
I agree with you, because I look at it as, at least for right now you're giving yourself the choice between two wild cards that each have already shown some troubling signs. You could argue the teams shouldn't give up on either of them, given how little they've played. But I got to believe if KOC is going to hedge the bet, as we've talked about, he's going to want, I mean, you're not going to get a sure thing, but somebody who is a little bit more established, even if he might not be as talented as what Richardson might indicate. Because, like I said, one wild card I think is enough. You throw two in the mix, I think you got to have an awful lot of job security to be willing to take that risk.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I mean, part of why I agonize so much about the Kyler Murray thing is because I've watched film of all of these names. I mean, I've probably watched at least 1,000. This is not normal, and it's probably not healthy, but I've probably watched 1,000 clips of throws of Kirk, Geno, Derek Carr, Anthony Richardson, all of these guys. And what I would say is, if you are shooting for upside, Anthony Richardson would certainly be near the top of the list.
That's true.
But right now, with where this team is and where they probably want to go in 2026, especially when you have a superstar receiver who you don't want to further jettison into 2026, it makes it hard to believe that shooting for upside as opposed to stability and floor would be the approach that they take.
Your number 10 is make Rob Brzezinski the full-time GM. Why?
Yeah, I think Rob Brzezinski is someone over the course of the last 2 decades plus who I'm not quite sure that he has thought to become the general manager. From everything that I understand, he has been very okay allocating all of his time to working with the salary cap, to communicating with ownership, to establishing really good relationships behind the scenes. And I feel like at this juncture, with him being here for 2 decades plus, if this is the point at which he feels most comfortable vying for that spot, and I'm of the belief that it might be, then he's a guy who could garner the respect of enough people internally to be able to drive this thing to a place where the decision making is made solely for the betterment of the organization and not out of, let's call it, ego or scorekeeping, et cetera. And I feel like, it's going to be much more difficult for someone new to come in and establish that rapport quickly. I would also say, given the importance of the decisions that they're about to make at quarterback and via the draft, the accountability piece is huge. And so, the idea of you're going to bring in a new GM who has no accountability of these massive decisions that have just been made, it's quite a difficult thing to envision in my mind.
One of the things, one of the other ones you examine is the offense. Not so much just about doing a better job, incorporating a running game, but maybe tweaking beyond that in terms of what the look is supposed to be. What other things could be added that need to be added to an offense that last year didn't really seem to have much identity at all? What did you mean there?
Yeah, I mean, one comparison or juxtaposition can be made just with how the Seahawks offense kind of supported Sam Darnold in 2025 and how that compared to the Vikings in 2024. And I mean, one, example of it is the Seahawks ran design rollouts on like almost 13% of offensive plays in 2025. That's a ton. It was near the top of the league. It was almost double the usage that the Vikings had in 2024. And part of the reason you do that is to get your quarterback on the run, not, limit them from having to progress throughout across the field. And so I just feel like with this offense and the commitment to hunting explosive plays, which I fully understand, because when you generate an explosive on a drive, you're 6 times more likely to score. So it's a very sensible strategy, but I think some of the best offenses in the NFL find this perfect blend and marriage of, yes, we are going to generate these big plays, but we're also going to allow the quarterback to have some breather plays that just, it keeps their mind calm. It distributes where the pressure lies. And so, you've talked a lot about it, Dan. I've written a lot about it for 4 seasons now. The run game has not been something that can be leaned on when this team is going up against a front that is formidable. And until you get to that place, Bill Belichick used to always say, you have to be able to run when they know you're going to when you're going to run. You have to be able to throw when they know you're going to throw. And I don't feel like the Vikings have met those marks in totality over the last 4 seasons.
Is there any reason to believe that the Joe Burrow fantasy is going to be in play this offseason?
If the Cincinnati Bengals, for some reason, were willing to part with Joe Burrow, or if his representation, which, funny enough, is the same representation of J.J. McCarthy, were willing to force his way out of Cincinnati, do I expect the Vikings would be very much involved in trying to bring him here? Absolutely. There's been no indication that I've gotten that Cincinnati would trade someone who brings ample people to that stadium every Sunday. So until that becomes more realistic, it's hard to envision it.
Is there any reason to believe? I had a couple texts along this line of thinking, basically saying, look, the Vikings, the competitive rebuild has its limits, that the Vikings need to get younger, they need to get faster. So the proposal here is, let's stop kidding ourselves. Let's actually even consider trading some of our more attractive assets, perhaps for some extra first-round picks, and then let McCarthy play, make his mistakes, let him learn, with the assumption that there is something there, and the pressure will be off to the extent that, unlike this past season, people, including in the organization, have a better understanding that, you want to call it a gap year, whatever you want to call it, that we're just not quite there. Any reason to believe that thinking is taking hold or might take hold this offseason for the Purple?
I mean, it's really difficult to imagine that this ownership group, which has never been willing to go that route, would all of a sudden go that route after a season that the Vikings just had. And so the answer that I would be pretty stunned if that were the process and the approach that this organization took. And I not to bring up Seattle again, it's just on my mind. I mean, Seattle is a fascinating example of an organization that has been pretty similar to the Vikings in how they've operated in terms of wanting to be competitive every season. Now, part of what contributed to this 2025 team and to what they accomplished is the fact they traded Russell Wilson, generated more first-round picks, a lot of them, and then they drilled the draft for 3 years in a row. And so I think while we talk about everything else, and I've said this to buddies, and I'm not sure they enjoy me saying it, but until the Minnesota Vikings hit the draft year after year, specifically up top, it's going to be really, really difficult to reach the place that everyone in these towns deserves to reach at some point in their lives, is what I would say.
Is the lesson from the dismissal of the general manager, is the lesson that you believe the team will take out of it that we might have gotten a little too cute. We might have gotten a little too excited with ourselves that we're thinking out of the box and we're getting somebody quirky and we're getting somebody who's going to see the forest for the trees. And, we kind of like the fact that he didn't eat, drink, and sleep this stuff. And what seemed, kind of withered and wow and fashionable and exciting and different at the time that we're now at a place where you go, in the end, maybe boring is better, or maybe somebody who has been brought up in this stuff does eat, drink, and sleep it, has a scouting background almost from the beginning, is actually going to serve our purposes better. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the lesson, definitely can be, or there's a tendency probably for the lesson to be very emotional and to almost, as often happens with coaches too, to where you just shift to the entire opposite end of the spectrum. And I'd say, like, if I were speaking to ownership, which they don't consult me all the time for my opinions, I think the lesson should be that what's so important for that general manager role is to be able to establish, just like a coach does for a locker room, faith that the processes that are in place are the ones that are going to lead us to the mountaintop. And it doesn't, whether it's background or whether it's scouting experience, so much is just, for me, it's just self-awareness, relational ability, all of that stuff is as important as everything else. But I would also say that there need to be lessons taken beyond just, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. I would say that, this scouting staff has been in place for a long time here with this organization. And while scouts and college scouting directors don't pick players, and mostly they just provide information that sometimes coaches and executives and GMs take or don't take, I do think that information and ensuring you have really good information is important. So what I would expect Rob Brzezinski and ownership to take a long look at just the structure entirely. And if they don't, I'm not sure if the lesson learned is as all-encompassing as it needs to be.
The last item, I think for today, the assumption is that with the permanent general manager gone, and now you got Brzezinski kind of in this trial run, that KOC is going to have even more power than perhaps we even thought he had going into the draft last year, when it was already clear that he was more than just a coach, even if that was his only title. So where does KOC fit into this whole thing? Do you think he's going to get leaned on even more? Is that good? Is that healthy? Or what do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question. And without a doubt, I think he'll get leaned on even more, but in saying that, I don't want to minimize the role and the voice that he has had now for multiple seasons, specifically with the quarterback decisions, and also, with draft picks and roster as a whole. You raise an interesting question. Part of the reason you have a general manager and a front office is to look kind of over the long haul or over a multi-year period. And coaches rarely do that because they're coaching for their jobs every single day. And so it creates almost this organic conflict. And this has been the case over the years in this league and in other leagues, whether it's basketball as well. And so it's going to be really interesting to watch and observe how many decisions the Vikings are making, for just the very short term, and what that might mean in terms of taxing things for the long term, if that indeed is the process. So, this next month, and it begins in 2 weeks at the NFL Scouting Combine, will tell, it will answer so many questions in terms of real commitment to J.J. McCarthy or lack thereof, what Kevin O'Connell values for the quarterback group for 2026, how much they are dipping their toes in the future for the present. All of those questions will be answered with action over the next month.
Do we have any reason to believe that Kwesi is going to surface by giving one of you jackals the opportunity to hear what he has to say about all the things that have been said and written about his tenure?
It's a good question. There's probably some contractual aspects to that.
Yeah,
and there's also typically agent advice that plays a role into some of that. But yeah, I would also say this about Kwesi, and I mean, this comes from, I think I did a story on him before last season where I sat with him for 3 different times for an hour each time. And he's just working, to establish a certain position within the media has never been his MO. He has mostly thought and taken the tact of the decisions that we make and the final results are going to write the narrative of how things go. And so it'll be interesting to see if he does. And I'm sure if or when he does, it'll be thoughtful because it usually it's kind of how it was and has been with him.
I enjoyed your 10-point plan. I appreciate the time as always. We'll keep in touch. Thank you, Alec, as always.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Appreciate
Dan.
you. Alec Lewis covers the Vikings and the National Football League for an enterprise called The Athletic, which is now technically a part of the New York Times. Worked out pretty well for athletic pioneers like Johnny Athletic and John Krasinski from the old days. A pause here. We'll get some interesting reaction via the not X line. That's very different. The Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line, and explore a couple of other controversies before we wrap things up at 6:30 tonight. Jeremy Edina. Dan, I know you're a fan of sports excellence. You have to watch this Norwegian Nordic skier at least once. He is toying with the field, absolutely blowing other skiers away to the finish line. We talked about him earlier. He's being described as the Michael Phelps of the Winter Olympics, and he has already, I believe, won 2 golds and is expected to have a good chance to win 4 more. 6 golds at the Winter Olympics. That would be a Winter Olympic record, by the way. Although, how many did Eric Heiden, the famous speed skater from the United States?
He was just featured in the 1980 Miracle movie.
Was he?
I believe so.
Oh.
Yeah, he said he would win a gold, and then the next day he'd go watch the hockey team. Basically,
okay,
it was a good bit.
He won a bunch, I thought. I think I didn't. 84 I covered. I know I spent some time around Eric Heiden.
At the 1980 Olympics, he was the most successful athlete, set 4 Olympic records, 1 world record, won 5 individual gold medals, more than any other athlete.
So this would trump that if he gets if the Nordic skier from Norway gets to 6. So 5, that doesn't surprise me.
He was born in Madison and then moved to Shorewood Hills, Wisconsin, near the
he was a
Dells.
Wisconsin guy. Yeah. Those are the days. There was for some reason in the speed skating community. Again, going back to 84, there was some kind of schism. And I don't remember if it was a coaching issue or a personality conflict. And I will tell you, I ended up in West Allis, Wisconsin. This was when I was working in Dallas. So I'm preparing to cover the 84 Olympics, and I'm doing all kinds of preview stuff. So I find myself in West Allis, Wisconsin, to show up at a press conference in which there are speed skaters yelling at. One guy was a Chicago Tribune reporter who had written about the dissension, and I thought I was going to have to help break up a fight because a couple of the speed skaters, not Heiden, but a couple of others, they're yelling at this one reporter. His guy's name was John Hussar, and one of the skaters is like he's standing up. They're like up on a stage. And he's standing like, and that, you Hussar, you're a part of the problem here, Hussar. Some of the stuff you report is just garbage. And I'm going, what have I walked into? But the beauty of it was it made it a juicy story because otherwise, it's speed skating. I mean, how interesting can speed skating be?
Right.
But there was a speed skating schism. It was unbelievable.
And Hussar
was
right in the middle
apparently
of it.
cooked it up or was fomenting it. And we all got the benefit of it, because then we're all just, taking down all this stuff, getting our notebooks out and our tape recorders out as this stuff's flying back and forth. It was vicious.
Well, how about this for a schism with speed skating? So Heiden was asked to participate in the opening ceremonies for the Salt Lake City games in 2002, but declined after he was passed over for the honor of lighting the torch.
Oh.
The torch was given to 1980, the Miracle Team. And Hayden said in 2009, I was probably just too stubborn. I figured if they don't appreciate what I did as a skater, if they don't appreciate now what I'm doing as a human being, I'd just as soon hang out with my buddies and watch it. I did not mean to slight the Olympic hockey team in any way.
Wow. I forgot that controversy.
Yeah. Apparently, he turned down a bunch of endorsements because he liked the anonymity, according to his Wikipedia page.
It's a hell of an the Eric Hayden physique. Eric Hayden had thighs the size of like sequoias.
I was going to say redwood trees.
His thighs were like unbelievable.
I'm looking at him right now.
I mean, that was a very, again, one of the most dominant Olympic athletes, Winter Olympic athletes that we've pretty much had ever. Now
I'm going to Google that Hussar controversy.
John Hussar, I don't think he's alive anymore.
So good.
But yeah, it was like, what's going on? But again, I loved it because there were angles there. And again, it's been so long, I do not remember if it was a coaching issue or there was some kind of a split within the team or who gets on the team was in question or some sort of cuts, but it was...
So Chicago Tribune, yeah.
Yeah, he was Chicago Tribune. He used to have a column called Our Man in Motion, John Hussar, yeah. Good reporter. I mean, he was very solid back in the day, but I think he's passed away.
Yeah, 63 years old, yeah.
63?
He died...
Oh, my.
He died a while ago, 2000.
That's unfortunate. Somebody's asking about, don't forget Apollo Ono and then Brian Boitano. But I don't think they won as many, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. That one I'll let go. I wonder if there's any real comparison to J.J. McCarthy in the comment. It feels like he was the best of the worst and the worst of the best. Draft pick we had to make, not wanting to make. Now we talk about it like he was a covenant draft choice, and maybe that's not the case, and we're finding out the reality every time he steps on the field. Your thoughts? I think there was a consensus about getting him. I do think, as I've said, that I don't think you can pin that just on the general manager at all. I think that's way too easy. My dream, and I don't think it's going to be realized, is that the next time KOC meets the Jackals, he volunteers that, hey, I want to make something clear here. And he can even finesse it and say, we still believe in J.J. McCarthy, but I want to make something clear. I was every bit every bit as much in favor of J.J. McCarthy and being aggressive to go get him as Kwesi. Anybody who thinks that was just a Kwesi decision, I want to set the record straight and make it clear that that's every bit on me as much as it is on him. Unlikely, I'm guessing, but I think that's the truth. I don't, like I said, there's plenty of stuff regarding the draft that's on Kwesi. I don't think the quarterback thing can be put on him at all. Top of the hour break. We got a half hour yet to go. There's more ski jumping on NBC right now. Again, how much ski jump? It feels like every day I've had this on, there's been ski jumping. So maybe I guess it goes on for a while. And I guess there's team competition, there's individual competition, there's all kinds of good stuff. And by the way, it is more exotic looking at night.
Oh, yeah.
The whole ski jump location.
Yeah. You know? The mountain at night is breathtaking.
It's pretty good. Top of the hour pause. We'll get to a couple of other controversial texts when we return right here in the... Here's a callback to an earlier discussion. This is from Minneapolis, Joel, who writes, perhaps Tony Esposito would have made a really good ski jumper, given how good he is at adjusting crotches. That's a callback to something Louis told us. We were actually saluting the late, great Glenn Hall, a former Chicago goaltender, Hall of Fame, who played it was over 500 consecutive games without, and this was, non-mask days, And then Louis brought up Esposito, who came after, and Esposito for a while, before he got caught, had embroidered or sewn into his uniform in the crotch area like a little bit of netting that allowed him to have a little extra help when it comes to stopping the puck between his legs.
Makes sense.
I mean, that's high-level cheating, but I guess he got found out eventually. And that was my first thought. I didn't want to talk about it with Louis because it's going to be too complicated to get into because we had that call back to the alleged scandal involving ski jumpers, right? Taking a medication that was going to help their, how do we put this? Give them more flow when it comes to flying a little bit higher on the ski jump and gaining a little bit more altitude and perhaps then a little bit more distance as well. Because the previous ski jumping controversy was that same thing, adding some little extra material down there to help the aerodynamics of the situation.
What did you have against Phil Maher?
Yeah. How did you find that?
Well, I Googled Dan Barrero. Well, I'm on the Star Tribune archives.
Yeah.
And I went Dan Barrero speed skating, which that'd be a good AI generated image, by the way.
That's for sure.
And I don't even know what this is. It's in the Star Tribune.
Yeah, it would have been, though, the Mayer brothers were skiers that I covered in 84 when I was still in Dallas.
Yeah, this is 84, and it's in the Star Tribune, but somebody, who wrote this? Sorry to just
It might have been a letter to the editor, because my recollection is I ripped them for something one of them said at the event. I can't remember what it was. You
didn't like Phil's attitude.
Yeah, Phil's attitude. And
somebody said the press has taken some pretty good shots at bored and bothered Phil Mayer, but nobody pours it on like Dan Barrero of the Dallas Morning News.
Yeah, that sounds like me. And if you want to talk about, a pre-internet era, I got back from the Winter Olympics, got home, and I had then the old-fashioned, it's almost like a cassette, player for messages and, that people could leave. I had messages from Mayer Brothers fans from the Pacific Northwest who had found my number, which was apparently unlisted, and left me vicious messages on an old-fashioned, tape recorder phone system. Yeah, it got a little bit.
Yuri Franco, you liked him.
I did?
Here's the paragraph that they grabbed. The sweet story of a Yuri Franco makes you contemptuous of the sour attitude of a Phil Mayer. A favorite in Franco's event, Mayer could do no better than 8th. That's the good news. The bad news is Mayer gets another chance Sunday in the slalom. I hope he chokes again or that he doesn't even show up. Phil Mayer is America's best skier, but he could do us all a favor by getting out of town now. I wonder
what he did. As honestly, I don't even remember. It was something he said.
He was moody, I think. He didn't bring it full circle to the top. He didn't like his mood.
That was early Barrero savagery because I wasn't even really a columnist then, but they allowed me to write some.
Well, you got it in
the Winter Olympics. Yeah, that goes back. I'm amazed that I never knew that it ended up in the Minneapolis paper though. Because I think we were on a New York Times news service then.
That must have been what it is.
That's what it was.
It must have been what it was.
Yeah. That's a long. That's a throwback for sure.
It's like I go, how'd you find that?
I was stunned. Let me ask you a Tony Dungy question.
Yeah.
If Tony Dungy called you tonight and said, Gaardsy, need a little advice. I'm under siege by, among others, Rodney Harrison, who called me out regarding the Hall of Fame voting. And as I understand it, to this point, Dungy has refused to say who he voted for, whether he voted for Belichick or not. So if Dungy called you tonight and asked for an opinion on how he should proceed, whether he should continue to do what he has a right to do, which is say, I'm not giving this information out, or to say, all right, I'm getting some heat. I've thought about it some more. I'm gonna reveal. I'm gonna explain who I voted for or who I didn't vote for, and I'm going to explain why. What would your advice be to Tony Dungy?
I don't think my advice would be good advice because I don't think voters need to explain themselves to everybody all the time.
Is he in a position where it's harder for him philosophically to do that, given how prominent
omnipresent he is?
That's my question.
Yeah, probably.
But here's to me the sticky wicket for Dungy. He's stuck in that if he goes public, and I don't know what he would say, if he didn't vote for him, which is the presumption, I don't even know if that's fair to him, then if he gives the reason, and I don't know, would Dungy's reason be Deflategate? Would it be a sense of that those of us who felt like we played by the rules did not respect what Belichick did, even if obviously he's a first ballot Hall of Famer? Because if that's his answer and he goes public with it, he's going to get ripped even more.
Right.
Because it's going to be, it's envy and jealousy. You just couldn't handle the fact that over a period of time he was actually better than you, as good as Tony Dungy was. I think it's an interesting ethical question about what kind of advice any of us would give Dungy in terms of whether he's almost forced to go public now, or whether the more he talks about it, the more likely it's going to be dismissed anyway as, well, that's just that competitive stuff, and one coach is too small to give another coach the credit that he deserves. I don't know I don't think there's a good answer on that.
There's not, and you mentioned it was Rodney that kind of put him in the hot seat there.
Yeah, he did. He was very frontal.
That's a tough. That's not really taking care of your teammate there. You know what I mean?
No,
That probably wasn't brought up in the production meeting.
Yeah.
I'd have a hard time believing it.
Hayden's thighs, Wolves mood on the rise, Olympics support for wild guys, Vikes drafts unsurmised, Wolves and 5. It's a long way to go, but
it was worth it.
He kind of got there, that's for sure. What about Bonnie Blair? I don't think she won a bunch of golds.
She had the alliteration. She had the
won.
hair.
She had a great run.
Yep.
I think she was in like 12 Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
I think she competed from the time she was 14 until she was 80 in the Winter Olympics. Or Bonnie Blair. And by the way, one of the favorites from media people because she couldn't have been kinder.
Yes.
Just a really nice individual. Did I get lost in Heights' thighs?
You lost yourself in his thighs.
I kind of did.
You're still lost.
I mean, it wasn't difficult to see that he was just built differently in a place that when it comes to the, I guess it's an oval. I think in speed skating it's an oval that was going to serve him very, very well in that regard. He was absolutely terrific. Did speed skater guy wear Bermuda shorts to show off his thighs? Well, he could have. There's no question about that. No one, everybody would have been very, very impressed. All right, we got one more break to get in. We'll remind you of highlights and lowlights from today's program and what is on the docket for the midweek edition of the Bumper to Bumper Show. Back in a minute.
Show Wrap is presented by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
This might be the greatest sports photo I've seen in at least several months. Did you see it? It broke yesterday. It's Sam Darnold and Kenneth Walker in the teacups at Disney.
I did see this.
How good is this? Two football players in the teacups. It's awesome. And he's got a Vikings cap on. That's vicious.
Wow, that's some trolling.
That's some trolling.
No horns?
Trolling. No horns. Maybe some braids. Not sure. I want to thank an outstanding array of guests today. Lou Nanny joined at 4:02. And he reminded us, what hotel did he say was staying at? Four Seasons in Orlando, correct?
Four Seasons Orlando, yeah. He's not playing golf because the greens fees are too expensive, is what he did tell me.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Oh, God. How does he say that with a straight face?
Well, I mean, he's got to draw the line somewhere.
Does he?
I guess.
He really doesn't, though. That's the thing.
That's true.
If you're staying at the Four Seasons, I don't think you have to draw the line at all.
If you want to keep staying there, though.
Well, maybe that's it.
Rich people keep their money, man.
Louis was at 4:02 today. A lot of good stuff from him on a number of historical subjects and some Olympic stuff as well.
I'll play Nicholas's place next week. I don't need to play the Four Seasons.
That's close enough.
That's what he would say.
Alec Lewis with the good football primer. including extensive, I guess, recall from his 10-point how we save the Minnesota Vikings plan that he wrote, I think it was actually late last week. Really good stuff there. You have kind of a runaway microphone that sooner or later is going to
impale
hit you
me
in the chops.
Yeah.
What's the story?
I don't know. I got to ask the other producers if they're having the same issue. It's almost like
it has a life of its own.
It's like a whack-a-mole almost. Yes. And I put it, and then you knock it down, and then it comes back up.
On
You've seen me just
I did twice. I've seen you almost go on and need to go into concussion protocol.
It's like one of the springs just got reset or something because it keeps just flying towards my face.
It's pretty amazing. So
a lesser athlete would have been hit multiple times by this thing. I'm just saying.
The 2-time state tennis champion still have the reflexes, that's for sure. Alec Lewis was between 5:15 and about 5:45 or so. Tomorrow is a Kevin Seifert day. I'm assuming it's a Kessler day as well.
That's the plan.
And we've got a couple other things we're trying to put into the mix now that we are in the abyss period. Obviously, there's no Minnesota Wild hockey for a while. Wolves have one more game. It's tomorrow night, right? We're hosting the Portland Trailblazers.
You got it.
And we'll see what our moods are like for that game as well. Then we sit for All-Star Weekend, correct?
Yeah, it's at the new Steve Ballmer Intuit Dome, right? I think that's where the All-Star game is.
Somebody brought to my attention. Did you see the latest Pablo Torre bomb?
I don't know if I did. That was my favorite tweet from the Super Bowl halftime show, by the way. While you look for what you're looking for, the all those trees, the human trees. Someone was saying that was Kawhi Leonard's aspiration deal.
Yeah,
it was so good.
Very well done.
That's why, as much as I hate Twitter all the time,
one of those can save it for weeks at a time.
It's like golf. It's the shot that keeps you coming back.
There's no question. What was like the shot earlier? What was the one that we celebrated earlier that was so good? The cheap shot. Let me see if I can find it. I think I did favorite it. But I favorited several, so let me scroll down. Oh, when we're talking about the demise of one of your favorite bowls, the Quick Lane Bowl.
The Detroit Bowl. Yep,
is done. And then we talked about maybe having one here and various sponsors and who would be in charge. And texter guy, this is Tom from Savage, Southwest Light Rail Bowl coming in 2042, maybe. That makes the text line worthwhile.
It's so good.
There's no question about that.
So good.
Pablo Torre today. The Clippers okayed kickbacks to Kawhi Leonard's Uncle Dennis, sources tell us, along with a documented trail of LLCs, an apparent NBA pay cut, and the Feds chasing aspiration. Then Clippers GM asked, quote, how many bleeping side deals have we made with Kawhi? Wow, that's major. If that's true, and I'm assuming it's...
There's a lot of smoke here, isn't there?
Yeah, now it almost looks like it's a fire has broken out because this takes it to another level and another step entirely. So Kessler tomorrow is already confirmed. Seifert tomorrow, and more to come. It's the abyss period. If you have ideas for us, that's okay. We'll consider those. But we've got 2 or 3 other irons in the fire, and we are going to try to bring back Dr. Dan's Inbox this week as soon as Thursday, maybe earlier, because you said you got to hit you got to go for basketball Thursday night late.
Nebraska, 7:00 at the barn.
All we do is win, right?
6 in a row for Boudreaux.
What seed do we have right now, do you think?
Right now, it's like, depending on who you look at, 5, 6, or 7.
Really?
Yeah, the Iowa win jumped them up.
That's pretty good.
Top 10 win on the road. Very fun night. It was good.
Very good.
Yeah, they're playing well.
Yeah, the Gopher man, that was, they've had, I think, a lot of moral victories that I can accept. That was a bad loss the other night. That game is against Maryland. That's one of those that
need to get that one.
You need to get, exactly right. You need to kind of get that one, and they did not follow up their previous performance at all and get pretty much anything done. You could see it was the old Maryland's being, I think Maryland went into that game with only one victory in the conference, but they were hanging, and that was the concern is you're at home. You're not great, but you probably should be taking care of Maryland, and they let them hang just enough, and then down the
one
stretch.
Crazy shot at the end can beat you.
3. That's exactly
that little step back.
Exactly what happened as well. I had one other text that I wanted to get to real quickly because we got about a minute left to go. We mentioned Look at the Seahawks drafting Russell Wilson. Essentially got them 2 Super Bowls. The one he won and the one they won after trading him. Good drafting is like compound interest in your favor. Bad drafting the opposite. That's relating to our conversation with Alec Lewis, and it's true, man. It's not going out any kind of a limb to say drafting wisely is the lifeblood for most teams. But somebody kiddingly said this earlier, but it's true. You know why some teams can't start over or can't sort of have to go back to the drawing board? Because they draft so well, they're never in the position where they have to even consider those sorts of rebuilds, right? Or teardowns. And that's the beauty of what the draft at its best can represent. It can give you fresh blood at a cheap price that can take you places that you didn't even think you could get to. And if you simply try to fill in those mistakes that you make during the draft with free agents, look, we all like the spending of money. We all want the Twins to spend more money. But in all honesty, sooner or later, that's going to catch up with you the way the NFL works. You have to have both. You have to be aggressive in free agency, but you can't rely on free agency to fill every need, because it will, from a salary cap standpoint, definitely catch up with you. And that's really the position this team is in. They got to have probably 2, 3, 4 consecutive years of drafts like what the best teams do.
Yeah,
where the names might not be all that familiar, but they give you starts. They play. They may not all be stars, but they give you opportunity. And again, every once in a while, one of them does emerge and becomes a star as well. Fan and a Man in the Air tonight, and we will be back here talking tomorrow beginning at 3.
Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the great time. We love you, Dan.